Hello, everyone. It is beautiful to hear the volume in this space. This is what we're here to do. I am Anita Sheila Subhash Chandra Patel, daughter of Annette and Subhash Chandra, granddaughter of Herb and Joyce, Ambalal and Kashiban. And I invite them into this space because they are people who, at every generation, believed that they could do something that others told them was impossible. And I think that's part of what makes me love GEO so much. This legacy of my family, of what I carry, is part of GEO. GEO asks us, what's possible? Who do we want to be as a philanthropic community? And what does it take for us to get there together? This is not a time to shy away, to play small. This is a time when we live into who we can be and who those before us and who those who are yet to come need us to be. And I just really, really honor all that you're bringing into this space. I have the deep honor of being the chair of the board for GEO, and I really, thanks, but let's give the real applause, because I just took over yesterday. Full disclosure. So let's give the real applause to Denise St. Omer, who is the board chair, outgoing. Thank you, Denise. Denise leads with such authenticity that we know whoever comes in kind of her orbit gets to lead from who they are as well, and I so appreciate that. While we have the appreciation going, let's appreciate the sponsors for for at least providing the funds so we could be here together and be in community. So if we could also give a round of applause for the sponsors. You are each here for a reason. I'd love to see if you'd just be willing to raise your hand. Has anyone here heard something that you're going to take back with you? Any hands? All right, keep them up. Has anyone here heard something that you're going to take action on when you leave this space? Look around this room. Almost every hand is raised. This is what we are doing. It takes one person, one idea, one action to create change and build momentum outside of this room. And you're not doing it alone, right? You saw hands all across this room at your tables. We each need each other to do this, to keep this momentum going. So if you get home and that to-do list starts to get really heavy, please remember that that person you're sitting next to, the person on the other side of the room, they are continuing with what they learned here, and they need you to do so too. We all want to do good, but good isn't actually enough right now. We need creative revolutionaries grounded in love. That is what is created at GEO. If you are someone who's not yet a member and considering membership, hey, you get a deal. There's a discount. If you want this community to help supporting you, to keep supporting you, to keep going, just find a GEO staff person at the table in the back, and they will help you with that. If you're someone who's already a member and is feeling like, yes, I have that idea, I want to continue, I want to talk with people about, connect with the GEO staff. They will get you connected with more in our community, this GEO community, to keep this going. Because the biggest piece of tragedy that we could have is that we leave here and forget that we can be so much more together, right? You are so incredible. And together, this power, nothing can stop it. Don't let GEO be part of your journey to keep this going. And now, thinking of creative revolutionaries grounded in love, I am so honored to introduce Marcus, president of GEO, and Akila, vice president of programs, who are going to come up and answer your questions and speak to some of the most pressing issues we're seeing right now. So welcome, Marcus and Akila.
Well, I am so glad to be here. I can't believe I look around the ballroom and how full it still is. I think of, did you all see Sinners? Did you stay? I feel like you all are the people who stayed until the very end, and we have a treat for you, just as Ryan Coogler had for us there.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased to be having this conversation, to kind of pull on some of the themes, the things that we've heard that we're still reflecting on, what it looks like to take action, the action that we're going to have to move into as we go back.
Yeah. But one of the things that is so special about this space and so special about the opportunity to be in a leadership role with you and our colleagues on the staff as well as the broader GEO community is that it's so important. We talk about practice, we talk about showing up authentically, but part of being ourselves is something that we have an opportunity to model. And so when I'm at home, usually I'm singing that song, I can repeat it and start crying because I can think about a time in life where I didn't feel free enough or secure enough in who I am to really share like that. But that's love. It matters. I feel some strategies emerging right now. As a matter of fact, from that journey, that was a shout out to my people right there. But the things that matter most in life shape and drive our impact. Hopefully they serve as aspirational for our efforts. And I've used this opportunity, and I feel like you all have given permission and even celebrated the opportunity to bring every faculty that I have awakened in myself into service for communities, for the communities that shaped and nurtured and loved me through all types of versions of myself, many of which I'm not necessarily the most proud of, but serve as stages that I've gone through to become who I am today. And that's what this is. We have that opportunity to be that way together. And shout out to Sandy. Sandy Ho, how many of you were together with us yesterday at the end of the day? It was such a late end of the day. Thank you, Sandy. Sandy, as a part of the executive director of the Disabilities Forum,
Disability and
Philanthropy Forum, was one of the allies, right? Solidarity is something that we practice together. Like that journey I described, I can talk about a journey that took me through coming from Ohio, which vacillates from red to purple in all of the ways that you all know about, and blue.
I don't think it's blue anymore.
No, I say that too. She's from Ohio too. But people like Sandy offered a kind of grace through my ignorance. Grace meaning a willingness and openness to attend to the spaces that I hadn't brought consciousness to yet, but were a part of my journey. So I'm showing up as to honor the people like Sandy and people who exist across other networks like Sarah and the network of North Carolina grant makers who have said, you know what, we got you. Here's some ways that we can kind of brush up on, polish those loose ends, tighten this up over here. But they gave me space to explore, to push the edges. That's what GEO is. I understand racial equity practice to be that, right? I heard so many expressions of this. It's not about agreeing on everything or even getting it right. We talk about perfection, right? This is not holding ourselves up to a new orthodoxy. It's challenging all orthodoxies and informing them with our practices. And so, thank you, Akila, for creating a space. But this is the kind of inspiration that I received just from the last few hours, the last day with each of you. And it's just such a privilege. I'm so excited. I want you to feel the energy that you have reciprocated through your participation. Right.
Well, there was a question I think we were going to end with, but it speaks so clearly to what you were already offering that it feels important to say now. And the question was, what are the things that strike you as difficult about building the solidarity we'll need to do what we need to do?
Yeah.
And especially across political identity differences, you're already talking to it a little bit. If you could just expound.
Yeah, well
how do we do it?
Hopefully you respond too, because as much as this is a conversation with Marcus Walter, it's really an exploration of what we've learned from the GEO community over the past 27 plus years. And so what I can say is, where to start?
Yeah. And especially if you could describe Because I think like many people are attempting this and doing it
Yeah.
and practicing and trying, and the trying and the doing are all
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
in some ways.
I'm seeing the faces.
But like, what are the things that people can expect, and what are the
Yeah.
capacities we need to build?
Oh, I hear it. I'm gonna choose to enter into the thing around some of the stumbling blocks, and I mentioned them in the initial share. But there's a desire to there's so many loving people that I've met inside of philanthropy, as incomplete and imperfect as the structure of institutional philanthropy is, in the history, as we've heard, in its gilded nature of covering up the things with a thin veneer, the things that are so unsatisfying. But in each moment, when I think about the slowing down, the being with each other as people, beyond the roles, beyond the constructions of identity that can sometimes be charged so politically in different moments in time, I think it requires a discipline of seeking each other during moments of crisis. I like to just refer to intensity, volume, like degrees of intensity, because we also learn through this work that change happens always, and it happens in cycles, right? And over the past decade or so, there's been overlapping cycles of change. And so for those of us who don't have a long-term view of or appreciation for how change happens, we can sometimes find ourselves in two conversations about the same topic, right? So I'm taking the long view. I'm thinking about the generation before me, what I can represent now, and then what I leave behind as legacy for the next round of leaders to take to pick up. But if you don't have that viewpoint, then you might feel like we need to address this issue now with a kind of urgency that feels like crisis. We don't have time to sit and explore. What do you mean make sense of this, right? We need to act. And all of it can be true. And so it's a negotiation, a relationship. When we talk about being relational, we're not talking about a moral thing. We're talking about advocacy. We're talking about effectiveness. We're talking about speaking and making explicit the inequities that this work is created to respond to. But the relational component allows us to hear and see each other, to remember the importance of offering the kind of holding that it takes when I'm really struggling with the stuff that has that represents the personal impact of those inequities on myself or the people that I care most about, right? And we lose that. It's easy to lose that. So I guess I'm saying because of our humanity, it's easy to forget about our humanity and not honor each other's humanity without a disciplined practice of humanizing ourselves, of healing ourselves, of grieving from the day-to-day impact of sensational absurdity that sometimes is simply the form that complexity takes at any particular point in time. It's life. It's life. And so if I'm not in the habit of loving, then how can I expect that of anyone else? And how can I expect that of myself to offer to someone else? It takes practice. And hopefully our networks facilitate loving in that way. But when I say loving, I hope you understand it is an active, grappling process that requires agreement and care and making mistakes and feeling vulnerable and a very unsettling experience that has an outcome, a promise that is beyond what we may imagine at any particular point in time, but it is shared.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's not a thing that we're used to doing.
Yeah. And so even our work now, as we hear our closing, our real closing speaker, right? We want to grapple. It's an invitation to consider multiple perspectives and how we might make space and challenge our own perspectives. This is not about aligning around one message, again, a new orthodoxy. If we leave here with an orthodoxy of what is right, then we have failed. This is a space to explore truth as it evolves. And someone said earlier, I think it was Dimple, that practice is how we evolve. Yeah. Thank you for allowing this practice.
Yeah, that's, I mean, kind of what we have time for. We wanted to like have this so you all can kind of see some of the things that we're thinking about and grappling with and trying to make sense of, especially as we think about the sector.
That's right. And in the same spirit, I'll just close out in gratitude. Without you, there is no GEO community. Without you, all of the stuff that I described is theoretical. But everything I described came from every experience from each of you, from every staff person who read a survey, who did some analysis, every communications, every input, every bit of feedback of, can you do this differently? Can you think about this? Can y'all consider this next time? It all matters to us. And
the failures.
Absolutely. It's all lessons in that. Yeah. And it's discomfort. I still remain unsettled in my attempts to achieve some of the goals together that we have envisioned as possible for the sector. And so as we transition, I just invite you all to struggle with us joyfully and consider, what's your best contribution and what do you need in order to do that at your fullest expression?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So next we have the real show, the real ending, the thing you really stayed past the end credits for. And we're gonna have this conversation about Beyond the Possible. We're so pleased to be welcoming Shai. Shai is the Chief Reparations Officer, is that right? Of Cypress Fund, and Adrienne Marie Brown. So I'm gonna bring Shai up and Adrienne up, and yeah, get started.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I'm supposed to take these off. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to be here with you. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to be here with y'all. Mm-hmm. Before we start, I come from Gullah people, so I must root in place before I begin any sort of conversation. And I would invite you all to put your hands on your chest and your hand on your belly and allow your eyes to soften and feel yourself rooting in place. I want you to give space for your mind to relax, to be soft and gentle with itself, to really feel where your body is, and take a moment to look back in your lineage and invite your folks into this room. And I'll start and then I'll pass it to you. I come from baby-catching Gullah people, union workers. I am the grandchild of Barbara Hugie, a florist, a hustler, a factory worker, and a union nurse down in Charleston, and even further back from Alice, who bought her 17 children out of slavery and made a place for my family and is my namesake. I invite you, Adrienne, to invite your peoples.
Yeah, all my peoples are here from the Carolinas. I come from two lineages that were trained to hate each other and fell in love. I come from people who owned others and people who were owned. I come from my father's mother, who had 7 children and was a freewheeling, fun-having, smoking, drinking woman. So she birthed my pleasure activism. And I just learned that I have an uncle who I've always thought I disagreed with, but I learned that he loves making peaches and pecans. He's growing all this stuff, and I was like, you're part of my revolution. I have to figure out how to get you over here, but those are my people, and that's what I'm working on right now, is getting all of them rooted in the soil of revolution here in the Carolinas.
And before we go back to this space, I would be remiss if I didn't invite us all to hold space for all occupied people, for the end of occupation, for our folks in Puerto Rico, in Hawaii, in occupied Palestine. We can hold complexity and joy and humanity while still calling for the end of white supremacist systems that hold all of us back, that don't allow any of us to thrive. It is our responsibility in this moment to take up space and have courage and bravery to say the thing when no one else will say it.
Right on time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited for us to ask each other some
I
questions.
know, I'm like,
I'm
girl.
obsessed. Virgo cat. I've read every book.
Wow.
Read every poem.
Everything?
Everything. I think I've read everything. You might have some secret
Wow.
stuff in the
No.
back that I haven't read.
I know I did it all in my name. Sometimes I wish I had done a different name, but I did it all in my name, so
It made the Google search easy.
it's easier to
Yeah.
find. I was like, it's either James Brown's wife or me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I first want to start with writing abundance. You wrote this beautiful call in to us as a philanthropic community about what we need to be doing in this moment. I wonder if you can share with us in this room a little bit about what inspired writing abundance and what lessons do we need to take from it now?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a Virgo. So my whole life has been, part of the work I'm supposed to do on this earth is discernment and trying to figure out right and wrong. And it's hard because I'm like, well, I don't believe that any one person can set right for anybody else. And I still believe that collectively there are right things. There are ways when we know when it's right. We know when the relationship is right. So I was an executive director and I was facilitating organizations. I was doing all this work to change the world. And I kept running up against the obstacle of philanthropy. And instead of feeling like receiving the support and feeling like, oh, good, the philanthropy tributary is flowing into this movement and we are flowing together. Instead, it felt like, this is the rock, and now we got to figure out how we're going to get around it. Is there any mineral we can grab and run? I mean, like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't want to feel like that anymore. So part of it for me was realizing I was participating in dishonesty in the relationships I was in with those folks who were funding me. And sometimes it's easier for me to make a blanket statement. So I was like, let me see what I would write if I was really writing my truth to these folks. And so part of what emerged was this piece that was like, I think the heart of it is an invitation, that I'm like, I have to think that people often are coming into philanthropy with the same heart purpose that I have, which is I want to make the world a better place. I want to make it easier for us to be humans with each other. If I can invite that part forward again, even though we're in these institutions that they are dehumanizing because they are capitalist. So that's what capitalism is, right? It's like, take the human out, put the money in, right? So being like, well, is there a way to be in right relationship in this moment in history? That was the other part for me that was like, I think sometimes when I articulate my visions to people, they're like, oh, that's so sweet. Like in 200 years, that's going to be a really nice thing. And I'm like, no, like I'm alive right now and everyone I know is suffering right now. And this, redistribution happens because a generation chooses to do it, Changing culture happens because a generation says we're a culture changing generation, I don't want us to feel like we missed the 60s, So I think it was my invitation and my bravery. And there's something really nice about it now, because people always like, thank God you said that, because now I can send that to somebody. I'm like, cool. Like, Toni Morrison always said that if you don't see what you need, you have to create it.
Absolutely.
And so I felt like, I was like, as I'm leaving, being in that formal position, this is what I needed to protect me as a leader, someone to articulate these things. And I hope it opens the door for more conversations and even more sharp analysis, more sharp, like, let's really reckon with what are we doing, and can we do the liberation we want to do within these structures? And if not, when and how will we shapeshift?
I love that so much. As I was reading it, it felt like you were speaking to me from 2019 when I got to found Cypress.
Yes.
So much of what we do at Cypress is about redistribution and
Wait,
reparation.
does everybody here know about Cypress?
You know what?
Do they really know?
That's actually
Because
that's
you
actually
just told me
good.
about Cypress back there, and I was like, what? That's here where I live? Please tell me, like, start from scratch.
Yes. I love to tell people I used to be Cypress's mama, which means I helped to co-found and birth it into the world. But now I am Cypress's guardian for the time.
Are you the protector?
And yes, that is me.
If you know, you know.
And Cypress is my love letter to the Carolinas. It is my coming home story as a queer, femme, Black woman who loves a state that never loved me, that couldn't see and hold me, but did see and hold my ancestors. Cyprus, at its core, is a place where people get to come together to redistribute resources to build the world that keeps all of us safe and that creates the conditions for Black women, femmes, and gender-expansive folks to have rest, because we know that once that happens, we all have what we need. And we are a place where we get to play and feel forward. And I was just telling you, I talk about my job in all these ways. My actual job is for the Black women that work on my team to get to fail forward, to get to land and have dreams and think about things and know that they get to have families and be a mom. And I will write a maternity leave policy for you.
Yes.
I will write one when that thing comes. We will right size our work. We'll engage in emotional safety together. I will shut this whole thing down if someone disrespects you, and we will have a calling in conversation about what does it mean to be thoughtful about the labor that people put into moving money.
So, how did you, yes, no, to do that, that's good, you deserve that. So then how did you know you could do that, right? Like, we're all in the same world, and so many people would look at it and be like, oh, I can't, I have to go with what's there, right? We're talking about beyond the possible, and I always think people have such a grandiose idea of what it takes to do something beyond the possible, but what you're talking about is like, I love moms.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you knew? You was like, I think I can take a risk on loving moms and it'll work.
Moms, aunties, uncles, gender-expansive TTs, the full realm.
Yes.
I think it's something that lands for both of us. The land taught me.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in the Great Dismal Swamp,
Yes.
imagining and reliving the maroon communities that were there, that were safe. And I let the land lead me back home. I knew that there was something here. I saw it in the ways that rivers flowed, in the ways that trees grew, in the way that the landscape kept us safe and fed and nourished us. It created safety for me to think about something that I couldn't possibly see and that I didn't know would exist in my lifetime, but I had the courage to think about, what if I just tried? And
What if I just tried?
What if I put it out
yes.
there?
I'm excited because I'm glad you brought up the maroon community root of this, right? I'm obsessed with maroon communities. And for folks in the room, maybe some of you are like, what's a maroon community? What is she talking about? But you're going to ask someone later. I'll just tell you now. So for enslaved peoples who were running away from plantations, who were breaking themselves free, there was no possibility of where else they could live. You know, we're talking 8 generations down the line, the only place we've ever seen is this, right? And the only power dynamic we've ever seen is someone telling us what to do and when and how. And so some people were like, I still see beyond that pause. I feel something else in me. I got to run. This isn't right, you know? And I think I name that because I think that's still in so many of us right now. We'll be in a situation where like, this isn't right. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I can feel that this isn't right. Maroon communities emerged because people would run, and then they would have to figure out, how do I make a way out of no way? How do I make a life in a place that I can't find any institution that will support me existing? So I'm going to go into the swamp. Nobody wants the swamp. Nobody wants to live in the swamp. Nobody knows how to live in the swamp. At least that's what we thought, right? And so no one will chase me into this. This is the boundary at which I can go, and freedom is beyond that, and it might be death, but maybe something else is possible. And they formed communities in these swamps that lived often with indigenous communities who had also been like, oh, hey, girl, they didn't want us out there either, girl, so come on, let's make some babies, let's figure it out. That's why almost every Black person you meet in the South is like, yeah, I got Choctaw, I got some Cherokee or something. Like, it doesn't mean we necessarily have that lineage, but we have the spirit of that lineage. We have the spirit of our freedom kept going because some of us were like, I'm gonna go find my way. And I think it's important to name right now because we are in such a terrifying political moment. And it could look like, well, all the institutions just gotta go as right as they can. But how are the people in this room going to think about the maroon funding we have to do, the maroon resourcing, the maroon redistribution we have to do? Because we're going to find our swamp ways to get through this political moment too, because the land wants the people who love the land to live on the land. That's just how it is. That's just, we know that.
Absolutely. It's not just that the land wants us to live, it wants us to thrive.
Thrive.
It wants us to be
The
in
fact that
community
live
with
means
it.
anything but thrive is so wild to me.
I think that's
I'm like-
that's the white cop in our head.
Exactly. I was
That's
like,
who that is.
that's not, I'm like, live should just mean thrive.
Yes.
I don't mean like the land is like, come suffer here, girl. Right?
Yes.
Which is, I like to think about, like, even in the swamp, there was music, there was
Yeah.
dancing, it was culture making. And what we do almost any moment that we're like, oh, I'm not in the cog, in the wheel, in the system, as soon as we break away, culture immediately becomes what we're doing. It's our whole lives. I love talking to retired people because I'm like, what are you doing? I was with my parents for the past few days, and it was like, what are y'all doing? It's all culture. Like, everything they do is like, I go play, and then I go watch beautiful things that someone made, and then I go play more, and then I made something. And my mom's, she wouldn't call herself an artist, but her garden is gorgeous and thriving, My dad wouldn't call himself an artist, but his community is thriving. He's always looking for, even when it gets on my nerves, he's like, literally, I'm gonna tell y'all, I was in the emergency room yesterday, okay? I had to go to the emergency room because mama's getting older and things are happening. And I was like, girl, something's happening. I need a doctor. So I go to the emergency room. My dad has me running a GoFundMe for someone in his community. So he comes to the emergency room. He's like, well, since we're waiting, I wonder if we can take the next step on this GoFundMe. I'm looking at him like on morphine, just like, but I love that he's like, I'm a community weaver at all times, and this is my opportunity to get your undivided attention. That's his art. That's where the people I come from, right? But I love this idea of like, when you take away the structure for so many of us of capitalism, of having to keep our head above water, what comes quickly is culture. And I think culture is where we also can keep our humanity intact as we go through these really terrifying times.
I also think there's something beautiful and unfortunate. I'm sorry your daddy did that to you. That also sounds like my daddy.
Listen,
and my
I was like,
grandma being like,
Dad. My mom kept being like, that can wait till tomorrow. That can wait till tomorrow.
not when you're sitting, not
No.
when you're just sitting and available. But I think the other thing I hear.
He's like, but look at her. She's not doing nothing. She's not working.
I also hear community resourcing itself.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in our philanthropic structures,
Yeah.
we get so caught up in the RFP, the grant agreement, like all of these systems that are like our communities are resourcing themselves. They are aligning the money to do their work.
Yeah.
And we are sitting
Trying
here, they're trying to, and we're sitting here having the least amount of risk. The worst thing that may happen is you get called out in inside philanthropy, maybe, right? Like that's like, right? Like you gotta go have a sit down with
Gotta go sit in the
HR,
mirror,
maybe,
yeah.
right? Like I don't know if you should have said that. But our communities are finding ways to get the money out. And we
Yeah.
are not. What is an invitation to us in this room to remove the barriers that allow us to move the money? And what can we move beyond the money?
Yeah. The thing that wants to pour out right now is, in this political moment, we have to recognize that there's been some failure. A little bit of failure. And in order to acknowledge that, we have to, I'm like, every person I know who's an organizer has been working so hard. Every person I know who's a philanthropist has been working so hard. But we still have not been winning. And I mean victorious, like, oh, our communities are healing. We're able to take care of ourselves. When I say victory, I mean healing. I mean well-being. I mean wholeness. And in order to internalize that, we have to recognize that at least for the last 20 years, at least since philanthropy became the core way that movement was supported, people who are the best organizers in the world have spent most of their time writing grants and writing reports, right? Building relationships with people who are not in their community or of their community, but say they want to help their community, right? And none of us have felt like, oh, I can turn and be like, hey, the most helpful thing for my community is not for me to hobnob with you, it's for me to serve them, right? The most helpful thing for my community is not for me to write a 20-page report on metrics that you determine from outside of it are useful. It's to show up for them. And they will tell me the metrics that I need. They'll tell me. I'll tell you what, I have worked with so many communities, and they will tell you, that has nothing to do with us. That's not what we're focused on. I don't know about your strategic 5-year priorities, but that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is get the trash picked up off the street. And then after we do that, then we can talk about your environmental program or whatever, right? And it's like, cool. Can I hear that you're actually trying to have one conversation with me about the environment in which you live? Can I resource that, right? So I think one of the biggest invitations I keep making is how to listen more, listen first, listen to folks you say you want to help, and let the listening shape how the whole process happens, right? I'm like, and think about how you would want it to happen for yourself, because you trust yourselves. I bet you bet on yourselves all the time. And when someone looks at you and is like, show me why I should trust you, you're like, oh, that's the same way everybody feels. Every person on earth feels like, babe, I know what I'm doing. Like, why are you asking me? So think about, oh, if this person's in this community and I can see their dedication. That's the thing to pay attention to. Because we get so, and I say this as a very charming person, but we get so swayed by charming people, right? Who come up and they're like, here's what I'm gonna do in the community. Look for who's doing it, right? Look who's already in the community. They already know. Go look. They're there. Folks are there because, as you said, Shai, communities are finding ways to resource themselves. There's no community out here. If they exist and you can see people in the community, you go and ask them, who makes sure you eat? Who makes sure your kids are taken care of? Who makes sure that you do have an education? Who helps you understand the political paradigm right now? You know, there's a lot of people who are like, we're developing this analysis and we're teaching our community. Ask them who they actually learn from. Oh, they learn from somebody in the barbershop, or they learn from somebody at their kids' daycare, right? Daycare is a untapped political educational hotbed, okay? You sitting there looking, waiting for your kids, like, oh, your kid says she's a girl and you think that's a boy? Okay, let's talk about it, right? So, but I digress, but think about and look for the workers, the doers, the people who are already doing it, and then how can I make it as easy as possible? How could my job make it be as easy as possible to redistribute anything I can get to you, right? I also want to make an invitation for rattling up the system. And when we see these moments, these highly controversial moments, so I've lived through cycles where it was like, oh, you can't talk about abortion. You can't talk about the war in Iraq. You can't talk about this. This past 18 months, it's been Palestine, right? You can't talk about that. And for many people, they're in institutions where like, we can't even talk about the threat to democracy, whatever it is. If you change how you think about those moments from, oh, that's a threat and I could get fired, to, oh, this is the opportunity I have to disrupt and check the values of this system, right? Because the only way people get punished for speaking the truth about true things is if they're all by themselves speaking it. If no one's by themselves, then you can't pick one person out of your institution and toss them to the side, and your board can't be like, okay, I'm like, you can only fire so many whole staffs. At some point, you're gonna run out of people, right? If we instead are like, we are the community that you have to impress, right? The workers, the program officers, because program officers I think of as the bridge people. A lot of program officers are like, I was in the movement, and that's the first thing you see. They'll sit down and they'll be like, listen, I was doing that for like 20 years, and then I had to take this job because I needed some, so whatever. And it's just so sweet to see, right?
It's the health insurance.
Part of what I love about this room is I see some pride in the work, right? I see some pride in the work because y'all are like, wait, now we're actually on something. We're trying to build community. We're trying to learn. That's how you should feel proud about your job. But I will tell you, the thing that makes you the proudest about your work is when you're telling the truth and you're in service to things you know make a difference, right? The only reason philanthropy has ever been a shameful profession is because it's not doing anything, right? When it doesn't do anything and it's spending tons of money and taking tons of time to do nothing, eventually that shame makes it hard to get out of bed and put on a cute business cash and go to work, right? So that's what I would offer. What do you think? Does that resonate with where you're sitting in the work now?
It does resonate with where I sit in the world. If you've talked to me anytime in the last 6 weeks, and you've been like, oh, what do you do? Like, I love you so much. You're so smart, so brilliant. I've probably looked at you and been like, I just want to do the work. Like I actually have nothing to say. I just want to do the work. I'm in the process of doing the work. I'm in the process of listening to my community. Cypress came out of over 200 conversations with people across the Carolinas that was like, what is the work that's not happening that we need to do? And then the last year, we learned from Borealis's movement evaluation project to be like, oh, we got to go back to listening and doing the work.
I love
right?
that.
Like, I'm disconnected from my community. I'm not hearing people tell me, am I doing right? One of our grantees, Dawn, is in the front row right here.
Okay.
And I'm often like,
What do
are
you
we doing all
think?
right? Like, what do you think? Are we moving money? Okay, is there something we
See?
could do more of? And that's not trust-based philanthropy. That's just being Southern. Like, that's just, I live here, so
That's the other
people
part.
gonna run up on my grandma if Cypress isn't acting
Yes.
right at church. And I'm gonna hear about it, but like, I can't
Your
go
scheming
nowhere.
granddaughter.
Right? Like, I heard, right? I can't go nowhere. And I think there's something missing about the fact that I live where I work, and this field allows me to move closer to my community
love that.
by removing as many barriers, but listening more than I talk, doing the work, and then coming out to say something afterwards, spending time to see it. I want to sit with you in Eastern North Carolina. I want to stay here for a weekend and smell what you're smelling. I want to drink the water that you're drinking. I want to go with you to the protest. I'm going to put myself and my high net worth donors on the front line in front of you because we should get arrested and you can go home to your kids. I want to bail people's mamas out on Mother's Day and listen to their stories and hear how that moves me to be different. I want to get to come in spaces like this and be like, what y'all did with y'all travel budget last year? Did you give it to your partners? Do your folks have health insurance? Do they have childcare? Do you actually care about the things that happen to them when they're beyond your grant reporting dates? Have you talked to previous grantees that you haven't funded in the last 2 to 3 years? Are you still actually holding community? Are you listening?
Yes.
Are you being? And do you live in your community, not just fund it? And I think that's the thing for me. I don't get to, I mess up and Barbara gonna call me.
But I like this piece because a local, I keep thinking about place-based work or local work. And I think for a lot of people it is theoretical, especially if you live in a place that doesn't see all places as real places, right? So when I lived in New York, I was like, So what are people doing? Oklahoma, We're doing the road. We've got our cult together, but like, what are y'all doing? Now, this is as someone with deep Southern roots, and so even that was informed. I was like, I come from a place where nobody asks questions; they don't change, right? And the narrative I had was that, and then I came back to the South. I didn't know I would ever come back to the South as an adult. I started coming back down for BOLD, for Black Organizing for Leadership and Dignity, and every time I would come back, I would be in these conversations, and I was like, oh, I was told the wrong thing about y'all. I was told there wasn't culture. I was told you weren't changing. I was told all these things. But the more I came, the more I wanted to be here. And I moved in 2021. I was like, okay, I'm coming home. And I got my whole family. So my parents were up in New Hampshire outside of Boston, lonely, cold. And I was like, come back down where your family is. And then as the oldest daughter, I don't have to take you to every doctor's appointment, right? Come back home so I can drive to my parents. I can drive to my sister. I can drive to my grandma. My white grandmother and I are like reconnecting over spades. We just play spades. And I'm like, I want to hear what you think and who you are. Because I was told that you were an unchanging thing, but you're a changing thing. And part of what I think place-based work and place-based organizing allows us to recognize is every place is a changing place. Every people is changing. And sometimes it doesn't look like the big bombastic speech-giving TikTok whatever thing. Sometimes it's quiet. I keep thinking about the 50-year journey experiment of my family is a quiet act of love, quiet act of love, quiet act of love. It's unexpected love acts. And I think that what you were just talking about, where you're like, the way I want to show up, I don't need to go talk about it. I need to do it. And it will be a quiet act of love, opening the fruit snack for the kids, like you were saying, right? And being like someone who like, oh, you can drop your kid off with me and I'll take care of them. Or, for me, I'm just like, can somebody go water my plants? I'm like, that's a novel thing. I'm like, yeah, there's like 20 people here who would actually go water my plants because they care about me and they care about the little world I'm making, right? So I think about that. I love this idea of like, do you fund where you live? Are you in it? Are you a participant in it? But also, from what you're doing in your own community, can you extrapolate that out and recognize like, oh, every place needs that kind of love, right? And part of what I loved about this gathering, I don't say yes to coming in person to very many places anymore, because humans are so gross. I get sick, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, every time I'm in a group of people, I'm like, oh gosh. Was it all, like I used to do it all the time. It's just room after room of 500 people being like germs. But, and I love y'all, but when it's an invitation in my state of people who are like, we're all, in North Carolina doing work together, we're trying to figure this out, and we're hosting this. I was so excited just by that, just by being like, how does the conversation change when you got people who are like, we're from here, focused on here, working here, right? That automatically changes the conversation. And, we say a lot in movement, as goes the South, so goes the nation, right? I think we see that on the big political sphere, but I think we can also really learn on the organizing tip. Southerners take care of each other. We bring a gift when we come to someone's house. Not because it's just because that's what you do. You go to someone's house and you're like, I'm so glad you exist, and here's your house, and here's a little plant, because you need another plant. Because you always need another plant,
Absolutely.
Or you need a donut. You need a biscuit. If you're
a little sweater.
When I moved to North Carolina, I was like, these biscuits are gonna keep me in my right shape. Like, it's just such a good way to live, right? And it's food-based. I really want to emphasize this. Like, if you're going someplace and you're not thinking like, who made what we're gonna eat, and what was the spirit and energy that they brought to that, right? Who's thinking about how the kids are gonna be taken care of, and not just set in a room, but like they're loved up on, and like, could they be in the middle of it all? What would change about that? Every Southern meeting I go to, I'm just like, double the time.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be babies in the middle, and they're just gonna do what they're gonna do, and we're not gonna do it without them. Because they're gonna learn. When you meet Southern organizers, lifelongers, they're like, I was there at my mama's leg, and now I'm here running this place. And there's something about that legacy. I think we need to be thinking about that too. It's like, how do we build legacy organizers and legacy organizations, places where it's like, we're creating something that people could pass on, and it's not the quote unquote the financial institution of it all, it's the relational institution of it all, right? It's like we think about how we build something that people are like, oh, I want to stay in relationship with these people, even if the forms change. The organizers I know the longest, we've been through 5, 6 organizations, different formations, but we stayed in relationship, and that means what we do when we get to those places is different, because I'm like, I don't even have to vet you. I know if you're over there, then I can trust over there, and we can keep working together. And again, trust. Trust is a real essence of local organizing, because you said people will come and tell you you're not trustworthy, or they won't talk to you at all. Yep. All right, so there's folks who are like, I don't deal with her. She's a perfectly nice person, but I don't talk to her.
That is my absolute favorite Southern thing to do.
Oh, I love it. Bless her heart. Bless her heart.
And
I
we
hope
get to
she's well.
transition into questions from folks in the audience.
Is it transition time?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
you can submit your question using our mobile app. I'll start out with this question. What practices help shift strategy and learning from transactional to relational, especially when working across lines of power and difference?
Please.
I was like, what strategies shift the work from transactional to relational?
Yes.
I think, for me, making power dynamics transparent helps immediately. So when we can't just both say like, oh, you're potentially going to fund my work and I'm potentially going to resource from that, and we can't talk about the power dynamics of it, or the power dynamics of you're in a system where you can't actually resource my work honestly. You want me to contort for the resources that you want? Can we talk about just what we're really trying to do? Are you Robin Hood? Are you King John? Like we talk about it. That's a Robin Hood reference. So, but I think there's something about naming the power dynamics and being able to be very transparent and honest on the front end of things, so that the transaction that is there, because sometimes people are like, how do we move from transactional to relational? But I'm like, well, we do have to acknowledge when we are exchanging resources in this way, there's a transaction happening. We can add a relationship to that transaction. And the idea for me is always like, I want to be able to be honest. If I'm like lying, if I'm like, oh, I have to tell you something we're doing that we're not doing, or that we're not interested in doing, but I got to act like maybe we will, check it out or something, I've already stepped off the course of my integrity. So I think there's something about integrity there, and that takes time. So one of the ways I think around this is funding for longer, even if it means a little less, like starting to build a relationship, or we're like, let's start somewhere where we can take the risk and feel into this relationship together. And as much I used to be like, give me all the money you can right away. And I learned the hard way that I'm like, oh, if I get one big grant from someone who's not trying to actually build any relationship with the work I'm doing, not even just with me as a person, but with the work that I'm trying to do, and then things don't go well, next year I'm out of luck because I'm like, great, I put all my eggs in your basket and we didn't actually build a relationship and now screwed. So part of it is slowing down and being like, just give me a portion of what I need and let's see if there's an authentic connection here, and then we can build on that over time. I also think one of the things is changing from, oh, we're keeping our money and we're giving you a little bit every year, to having a redistribution mindset. So we, as anyone who's doing philanthropy work right now, should be thinking, in our lifetimes, how could we redistribute what we have here, right? In our lifetimes, how could we move it so the bulk of these resources are actually living in the community, right? And I think right now the emphasis is like, how do we keep growing the bucket? I think what we've learned is growing the bucket, the greed that comes in as that bucket grows and the hoarding energy that comes in becomes very hard to challenge that. And I say that even as someone like, you give me $1,000, I'm like, 1,000, it's mine, right? My precious 1,000. And I'm like, you didn't have $1,000 yesterday and you were fine.
Yeah.
I mean, are you, maybe you were a little hungry, but like you actually needed 20. You know what I'm saying? But now you have 1,000, you can't spend it. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know this feeling?
Yeah.
So more money, more problems, I guess. So I think part of it is if you think about redistribution, that is one strategic shift, right? That you're like, oh, my lifetime work is not to hoard this, but to get it out the door, to get it to as many people as possible in right relationships. So let me slow down and build these relationships with people. But I think when I research people, I'm like, do I want to be in a relationship with you for the rest of your life? Will I go where you go, right? When I look at someone like Shai, I'm like, if I had $1 million, I'd be like, I want to start a relationship with Shai because I can see that you're going to keep going, okay? But I can feel, and not just because you're a Virgo, but that is a part of it. There's a part of it. But there is something there that I'm like, oh, I see how you talk about your community. I see how your community shows up. Oh, that's someone who I'm like, you're going to be in your community for the rest of your life. That's a good bet, right? There's an organizer in Atlanta, Mary Hooks. And I talk about Mary all the time. I love Mary Hooks, right? Everybody should be funding anything Mary Hooks does. But she's one of those people where from the moment I met her, I was like, Mary's just never going to leave her people, not ever. And so I know if I bet on Mary, that I'm betting on Black abundance in Atlanta. And if she left Atlanta, wherever she went, she would be a dandelion seed of abundance that she would go to that place. And instead of looking for rock stars, I think we should look for earthworms, right? Folks who are like, I'm going to be here in the soil working it, right? And you can count on me. And then someone like me who's like, okay, my work is like, I'm a trench runner. You know, I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing? I'm going to tell you. Then someone like me can be like highlighting those folks. You know, I love when people come tell me, who should I give money to? I'm like, I got a list. I always have a list.
Me too.
And a good leader should always have a list of whoever else they can be supporting. But those are some strategies. And let the relationship also happen when those people are not in the room, too. Like, think about how you talk about people who aren't in the room. If someone isn't someone that I want to support or see get resources, I just don't talk about them. I don't talk bad about them, but I also don't talk good about them, right? I just don't talk about them. You don't want to put negative energy. That's not good for the relational field, right? But when someone does great work, I can't wait to talk about them. And that enthusiasm, even when they're not present, they're going to get spoken about, right? I just saw my friend Sindolo. Sindolo, are you in here? Yeah. I was like, I thought I saw Sindolo earlier. It might have had to took off, but Sindolo Dayamina is one of my organizer friends in North Carolina. And every time I see Sindolo, I'm like, what are you doing? I can't wait to hear, because I know it's going to be the most innovative thing that's happening in North Carolina, or one of them, not to compete. I'm trying to unlearn the competition needing to be the best part, but that relationship, I watched Sindolo build relationship around innovation, right? Southern innovators, that's good fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shai, would you like to answer?
I think I'll be quick. If you want it not to be transactional, be a child. Children make friends quickly. They are in the imagination world that they have built. They are in it. It is real life, and it is low stakes and high stakes.
That's right.
My babies are in the high stakes. We Paw Patrol. and I'm patrolling, you patrolling, we gotta pull over. Like, it is the high stakes.
And do you have to do the paw?
Yeah, no,
driving with the paws?
and then, my god baby who's older, we on TikTok, like, we're in it. But the friendship, the removal of the things that as adults makes us self-conscious, that makes us lie to people, that makes us try not to hurt people's feelings,
That's right.
does not exist in friendship for children.
That's right.
I think that's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is fund people's political work. Every single funder in this room needs to be funding people's political work today, not tomorrow, not in a year after you've done your analysis, not in 5 years. We all must fund political work because that is where the rubber meets the road for our communities. I don't want to talk to you if you don't want to hear about my C4. I don't want to talk to you if you haven't testified in the State House this year, if you haven't been reading, if you aren't funding people's political work, you don't care about people's lives.
Well, and right now it's like that's the cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anyone who has any privilege, and maybe that's the other piece of this, that's the cover. It's like any privilege you have, you need to be using it to cover those who have less,
Yes.
right? And so much of political work is being like, I'm gonna stand out here and take this. You can give it to me because that person can't take anymore. They just they need us to help them survive. And this has been a really deep period for me because I'm like, I never think of my work as being political, right? It's such a trip to me. I'm just like, well, that's wrong. Nobody should be doing that. I'm sure there's a better way to do this than that. Genocide being one of those, apartheid being another one of those, Jim Crow anything, Confederate apocalypse being one of those, Elon Musk being anywhere near my Social Security. There must be a better way than that.
Yes.
That doesn't feel, the fact that it's politics and you sit down, I'm like, is this gonna be controversial? I'm like, do you want him to have your Social Security number? Do you want anyone to ever bomb your kids because you couldn't get out of a certain 200-mile radius, whatever? I'm like, there's got to be a better way. Humans are smarter than this. But it's so interesting to me when we're like, give people room to actually be a human being having human responses. You want to fund people who cry when they see something unfair happening and who figure out how can I reach across the table, across the board, and find the other people working with me. And don't be so scared to lose your jobs. Can I say that?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm saying I've lost so many jobs and I'm so free, y'all.
Me too.
And I'm having the best life and I'm okay. Look how many people came to a room to listen to me talk. The number of times I've lost a job because I took a stand, it's all good. Actually, it'll get you closer to where you're supposed to be. If you're someplace where you can't say something's wrong, and in my heart I know it's wrong, it's gonna do bad things to your heart if you don't get yourself out. So either change the culture, protect your heart, however you're gonna do it, but change the culture or get yourself out.
Thank you.
That was just one question, right?
Yeah.
I love
We might
it.
get one.
We're here all day.
The people are putting in the questions too. In the midst of this volatility and instability, you've reminded us to learn from the swirling patterns around us. What are some patterns that you think grant makers may want to see right now?
That they would want to see?
Well, so the way it was phrased
Yes.
was, what are some patterns you think that grant makers may be missing or misreading?
And you're like,
I did the asset framing. We did asset framing yesterday.
you're like asset
I
framing, so what are they
rephrased
looking,
it,
what
but that's the way
should
it
they
was-
be looking
yeah.
for, maybe? Okay.
Or what might they be?
Yeah. Patterns. I think the thing that we were just talking about feels like a major one, where there's so many people, when you lose your job for political reasons, it's often done very privately. And so I think there's a lot more people right now who are in crisis, and a lot of organizations are losing their money. Some are making a big political statement about it, a lot are not. But a lot of our people are really struggling financially in ways that are unnecessary. So I think the pattern is trying to ask people, go out of your way and say, is there any stance y'all have taken for which you have faced organizational punishment? Are you struggling because of something you've taken, and is there a way we can support you because of that, right? Would it be helpful in North Carolina, South Carolina, in these states where we know there's such a targeted effort against so much humanity, would it be helpful to have special funds that are created for organizations that are suddenly, the rug is pulled out from under them because of the political conditions right now? So thinking about how do we need to be more adaptive, right? What does adaptation look like? And again, you don't even have to say, well, here's our political stance on that. You can just say, we just care about these organizations. We care about the communities they serve, and they just lost all their resources. We're going to counter that, right? I think there's a pattern around messaging. There's, you might be picking up that I like to get to the thing, right? I'm like, let's just say the thing. There's always a pattern where you're trying to say something to someone directly, and that they come back to you with like this, like, ooh, yeah, right? And as the person who's trying to be direct, you track the whole pattern they just went on around answering your question, right? Or having a real conversation with you. So I think an invitation to be like, can I notice in my own self if I'm going around the loop instead of just answering someone directly? And just, even if you're gonna disappoint them, I saw something yesterday, I can't remember who said it, but it was like, be willing to disappoint people if that's the truth. If you're like, my institution can't do that. We don't have alignment. Our board is conservative, our board is doing this or whatever. Just say that. Don't waste my time. It's a precious time. My life is precious, your life is precious, and our communities are precious. Every minute I spend with you running around telling me things that are not actually the point about whether you can or can't do a thing you said you could do. Think of that, that is one place where I'll let capitalism, time is money as well, right? It's literally the resources I'm gonna have access to and the resources I'll have to go get them. I'm spending them with you. So notice that, that's a self pattern, right? And then I think notice if you're in an institution where the people at the ground level or the front line level, the program officers, the folks who are actually engaging, feel vastly different from the people who are at the top or who actually control the resources. I'm not gonna tell you what to do with that pattern, but I will say revolutions are made at that edge, right? And it can be a revolution that's inside your institutions. Anything that's happening in the world, you are also a microcosm of that. So are you a microcosm of the trend towards fascism and authoritarianism and control and silencing, or are you a pattern that extends and moves and trends towards revolution, towards liberation, towards community? Let that happen inside your institutions and notice what the line is and are we moving it, right? Or are we just holding the status quo? Holding the status quo in a time like this is too dangerous. We cannot afford it. We must be moving. Yeah, okay, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ty, anything you want to add?
I'm going to be honest in saying I don't know. I have not listened enough to know, but in these moments when questions like this come up for me, I call my homies. I call Josh at Southern Vision Alliance. I call Veronica at Grantmakers for Southern Progress. I call Janice, who was at Solidaris, now at Building Movement Project. Like those, sometimes I am so deep in what I am building that I cannot pull my head up to hear. So I trust other people to be the people that can notice the things for me. And I think having that network of like, when I'm feeling out of alignment, when I don't, being comfortable saying I don't know, but these are the other people I would ask that I know are brilliant and wonderful and deeply connected to the work in a way that I am deep in my own work right now.
Yeah, the anthill.
Thank you. We have one final question. Adrienne, your last podcast episode focused on solidarity. What advice do you have for us on the practice of solidarity?
Well, I have an exciting thing, which our whole season is focused on solidarity this year. That's all we're talking about every episode. So go listen. I mean, these are very deep conversations that each take a very different stance. So the one I think that they're referencing is the conversation with Sarah Schulman. Sarah Schulman just put out a book called The Fantasy and Necessity of Solidarity, which Sarah really does the most with her titles. We were just like, Stan, title, Stan, girl, because all the title says it all. But one of the things she talks about in there that I love, that I've really been wrestling with, is you don't have to have a clean motivation all the time to show up for solidarity. And we were talking about how a lot of times we show up in movement because we're like, I had a crush on that person, right? She talks about how there was someone who was showing all this solidarity for Palestine, and then later they were like, he was attracted to Arab men, but he did a lot of work, right? And I was like, ooh, right? I always am like, oh, you can't do that. And then I'm like, actually, most people, if we're true about our humanity, belonging is actually the main thing that drives us in any direction. If we feel belonging, we'll come towards it. And so it's like, oh, I feel more belonging. I'm always like, we need to make movement a sanctuary. We need to make it the fun place, the good place, like where folks are like, I want to be there. Because whether or not people are there for the right reasons might not matter if they're there doing the work they need to do in the right place. And then one of the big things, Autumn and I, my sister is my podcast co-host, one of the big things we've been talking about with solidarity that we're learning kind of the hard way is, you have to be willing to think about what you're learning together. And I feel like so often for many of us, solidarity is like, what can I do for you? Let me help you. Let me just get you together, right? And I love a fix. I love like, let me just fix your life. And oh, let me give you a little, there you go. And solidarity is not that. Solidarity is this mutual relationship of transformation, right? Where it's like, you need something maybe that I can provide in this moment, and I need something from you as well. And I don't know what it is yet. The relationship will unfold that. For many people, doing solidarity work is one of the most human, nourishing things that you do. So you realize like, oh, I'm freer because of the liberation that I just helped that person attain, right? I can count and I trust people more because I showed up for this person in their need. And I'm like, oh, humans do that. Every time I see humans show up for each other, I'm like, oh, right. The story that they're telling us about ourselves is not true. Yeah. The truth is most of us are like, oh, you're hurting. You know, I was sitting in the ER yesterday watching all these little clusters, these constellations of care. And people were carrying all, I mean, the ER is such a great place. It's horrible, but it's like, you know, you look over and you're just like, these people are miserable. We're all miserable. We're all struggling. And there's a whole other lecture and conversation to have about healthcare in this country and how no one should ever be sitting in suffering in pain like that. But it's beautiful to see how people do that, right? Solidarity looks like, put your foot over there. I told you put your foot over there. Can you go ask them again? Is it our turn? Like da-da-da. Child, lay down under these chairs. I know it's dirty. We're gonna wash later. Lay down under the chair. I can't deal with you right now. Solidarity is like being humans going through struggles together sometimes. And I was just looking at that and being like, oh yeah, and they're taking care of each other, right? And they're getting through it. People who take care, those who are in the sandwich generation right now, right? Solidarity with yourself might look like being like, it's okay for me to be mean today.
Or petty.
Or petty, okay? I'm gonna be petty. You did not have to poop on yourself. You didn't have to. You did not have to. You knew I was coming in 3 more minutes. Okay, and I've been watching folks learn that. So anyway, I think about that piece and like bringing that into our work with each other, where right now we're so scared to offend each other in any way, and it keeps us from actually getting dirty and doing the hard work of solidarity and being willing to be changed by it. I'm like, I am going to put my foot in my mouth. If I'm truly gonna try to show up for you, and I'm not exactly steeped in the same exact community place as you, I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. I won't even know it. Maybe you'll let me know, but solidarity is being willing to do that and fail forward. I love it. I love that. I love everything to do with failing and still going, you know? Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you think?
Ooh.
Ooh. Is it okay? Can I have Shai? I want to have Shai.
Yeah. I think solidarity is, and how you practice it in this moment is like fucking up, cussing, being willing to do the things that are scary, being willing to say the hard things, like, oh, I used to be a shitty boss and I really worked on it. Or like, oh, sometimes, you know what I mean? Like,
how many people used to be a shitty boss and you're working on it?
like, I want to be a better boss, right? Or like, sometimes I can
better coworker.
Sometimes I can be Kendrick Lamar petty, and I just need you to love me through that.
As long as it's art. As long as it's art, I'm okay with it. I learned that about myself. I'm like, I don't mind. Oh, I thought I didn't like hate, but I like it if it's artful.
Yeah, right. But
I like surprise hate at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I really do. I'm a little Patti LaBelle petty occasionally. Sometimes I'm a diva, but I think being willing to. I love to tell this story. At the core of Cypress's work is a reparations relationship between the family who owned my family and us.
Yes.
And we have this agreement that is like, I will never leave the table from you. I'll get upset, I'll scoot the chair all the way to the back, I'ma turn the chair around, I'ma cuss you out, we gonna cry, but I will never, for my lifetime, I will never leave this table from you.
That's right.
And that we can heal the generational things that I had nothing to do with and that you had nothing to do with, but impact us to this day.
Yes.
And not leaving the table from each other is the work. And that means I gotta work on my own shit. I gotta be like, actually, this was me. Matter of fact, I ain't like that blue you wore. I was gonna be pet, or you didn't give me this thing, so I'm not gonna give you that thing. But the family and I are not, we're close and we're not close, right? But at its core, we've never, in the 10 years, we've never left the table from each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Can I just say one more word on this too? I think when people, so often we come into work and we're like, we're going to try to make this like a family, this organization or whatever. If you meant that, I'd be down. If you meant we're going to come to this table and we're not going to leave it, we're going to get the work done, I would be down. Instead, you mean, I'm going to be like your messed up dad. And that's not what I want. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's hear it for both Shy and Adrian.
Thank you. You're so great. Yes. I'm like, come here, girl.
Thank you. Ooh, poem. Yes. Should I say?
Okay. So I wanted to offer this poem to you all, which is very on theme. I know y'all can be getting your bag together and stuff. I don't mind. This is a poem that emerged from a workshop I did in New Orleans, an emergent strategy immersion I did in New Orleans, and the big learning that we had from being with each other. And New Orleans is a good place to get your wisdom from and spread it around. So it's called Trust the People. Trust the people who move towards you and already feel like home. Trust the people to let you rest. Trust the people to do everything better than you could have imagined. It's hard. Trust the people and they become trustworthy. Trust that the people are doing their work to trust themselves. Trust that each breach of trust can deepen trust or clarify boundaries. Trust the people who revel in pleasure after hard work. Not before. All along. Trust the people who let children teach and remind us how to emote, be still, and laugh. Trust the people who see and hold your heart. Trust the people who listen to the wails. Trust the people and you will become trustworthy. Trust the people and show them your love. Trust the people. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Adrian Marie Brown and Shy. It was so, thank you. My name's Rory Nooner. I'm a senior learning officer at the Barr Foundation. And this is my friend Sophie. We have lunch together sometimes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Sophie. I'm a senior program officer at the Surdna Foundation.
So you may be wondering why we're dressed like WNBA draft picks. And it's because we want to talk to you about the 2026 National Conference. We've been drafted. We are very excited. So I'm delighted to be a co-chair of the 2026 National Conference along with Sophie's colleague Don Chen from Surdna. But really quick before we talk about that, I just want to share, this has been such a lovely time, and the GEO team, Marcus, Akila, Christina, Allison, Joyce, I don't know where Megan is, you're all, I know how hard you work on this, and this has been incredible, also to the program and the host committee. This conference has not disappointed. Let's hear it for them. This is my fourth GEO Learning Conference, which makes me feel a little old, but I'm leaning into my mid-40s. And I keep coming back to, there's always moments you reflect on when you leave, and I still remember conversations like I had with people in Seattle, for example. And I think the one that I'll keep coming back to here was in Hannah Hassan's poem, Charlotte is Beautiful, and this idea, we all laughed when she talked about trees. Do you remember that? It was very poignant. And then she talked about being rooted. And the whole room kind of fell. And I will leave here with those questions of how are we in philanthropy rooted in place? How are we rooted in community? How are we rooted in history? And then what roots are we planting for the future? And those are the kinds of questions that I know for you and for me bring us back to GEO as a community time and time again. So let's talk about next time. I'm thrilled to announce that GEO is, if you couldn't have figured it out already, we don't want to talk about the 45 three-pointers last night. Knicks fans, don't even know. So I knew it would be in the front row.
It's a 7-game series. 7-game series.
But let's not. We're moving from the Queen City to a city that once threw off a king, where we can gather and tell stories and strategize about how we outmaneuver and outsmart maybe a wannabe monarch. So we're so excited to bring the National Conference to Boston, June 1st to 3rd, 2026. So Sophie, why should they be excited?
Should be really excited. So I'm really honored to be up here and to welcome everyone to Boston for next year's conference. Boston is a complicated city with a sordid history with racism and segregation, and it's still working through that, but also a city that has brought universal health care, helped with gay marriage. So it is a city that also accepted my family. I came there as a refugee when I was 3 years old. So it is a city that has become my hometown, a place that I love, and I'm really excited to share that with you. And we have local leaders like Mayor Michelle Wu, who are engaging every day in fighting the good fight. And we're excited to have the GEO community be in community and in partnership with the local leaders. And it's a place where change can be messy, and that's the kind of energy that we need GEO to bring. So whether you're going in June, it'll be nice weather, it won't be cold, Adrian, right?
And you won't be lonely.
So I hope when we see you, I hope you'll come away with possibility. And as we close this learning conference, I just want to say, from the sessions to the hallway conversations to the chatter over lunch, and even the drinks at the reception last night, there was just so much boundless energy of hope and just really what's possible when people put their minds together. And it's not just the conversation, but it's the courage that we bring here and show up for each other. And so I would like to just thank the GEO staff for really bringing us together for only a day and a half. I feel like this was the shortest conference I've been at, but so much was done here, so much. And not only the staff, but all of the inspiring speakers, the hotel staff that really made these past few days possible. Thank you. And also, of course, you, the participants that brought your full selves, were vulnerable, brought yourselves into this space and learned with each other. So I really encourage us to bring this energy to Boston next year and to our daily lives and the work. It keeps going. So everyone, please take care and also rest. We learned that in the wellness session. Find ways to find your peace, your joy, because the fight is going to continue. So thank you for that, and really looking forward to seeing everyone in Boston. Travel safe, and enjoy the rest of your time here.